Hey everyone, I'm Chris Carter. This is the Locked On Steelers podcast. The Steelers are getting closer and closer to the free agency period starting and not having any of their quarterbacks signed. Is time running out for a favorable deal to be signed? We talk about that with Alan Saunders of SteelersNow.com. Also, a closer look at the running back draft class after the combine and how the free agent pool is expanding with further cuts. All here. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Steelers, your daily Pittsburgh Steelers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter, bringing you your daily dose of all things of the Pittsburgh Steelers. As always, you can find the show in your favorite podcasting apps and on YouTube. Like this video if you enjoy it. Subscribe to this YouTube channel to get all of your daily Monday through Friday episodes, as well as our bonus content. We thank you for making us your first listen every day because we're your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, the #1 sportsbook in America. Right now, if you join FanDuel, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets if you hit on your first bet of $5 or more. More on them later. As I said before, we're joined by the man himself, Alan Saunders. He's back on the show. Always love having Alan on. We're both back from Indy. I think we're both happy to be back from Indy. Indy's always fun, but it's always great to be back.
You know what's great is that I didn't do very much on Sunday, so that was great. I know you didn't get that, so I'm not rubbing it in.
No, yeah, I was just a little busy driving through crazy people. People in Ohio are crazy. If you live in Ohio and you drive and I saw you, you're a crazy person. Because I saw like 10 different chases between people racing each other, and I'm like, y'all, it's not that serious.
You know the sign in between Columbus and Cincinnati on the side of the road that says "Hell is real"?
Yeah.
That sign is irrelevant because anyone that's ever been on an interstate in Ohio already knew that to be the case.
Yes, exactly. And that's actually the area where it was the craziest, between Cincinnati and Columbus. Oh my gosh. Before I make this whole show about my anger about Ohioan drivers, let's get to talking here. Now, Alan, you wrote about this for SteelersNow.com, talking about the Steelers' updated situation at quarterback after the combine. Just more and more information getting out there. We're starting to learn more things. And I think one thing that is coming more into view, Alan, is that the free agency period beginning is right around the corner now, and they still haven't signed Justin Fields or Russell Wilson. We talked to Omar Khan while he was there. He said obviously it would be ideal to sign one of these quarterbacks before the free agency period starts, and that's now the clock that I think they're kind of on. But where do you see these negotiations, or these even just this decision? Because it's not even negotiations, it's decision making at this point for the Steelers being. What do you feel is this team's priority?
Well, I think they want to sign Justin Fields. I think that's pretty clear. The question really there is, does Justin Fields want to sign with them? Is he willing to sign with them before the start of the free agency period? And then if not, how much do they really want to sign Justin Fields? Are they willing to take the chance on letting Russell Wilson get away and maybe ending up with neither of them to try to continue to pursue Justin Fields after the 10th and the contact period starts? That, I think, is a lot more questionable.
And I think that's where if I'm the Steelers, I'm trying to stop it. And I guess it's smart by Justin Fields' side to play that, right? Because if you didn't do that, the Steelers have all the leverage. They can just offer you whatever money, and it's just like you got to take it. But Justin Fields can play the game as far as like, okay, go ahead. We're gonna see who's gonna blink. And if you blink and I'm going off with the New York Jets, that's gonna be your loss, and they might pay me a bit more. But I do think this is an interesting game being played. And I want to get your thoughts, because like this is one of those tricky times where it's like there's not like a straight line answer. There's not like it's not like a true or false question. There's not an easy answer for any of this. But it feels to me that if Justin Fields is the priority, they should make it the priority to get this deal done, but not for some absurd number. Is there a number per year that of signing Justin Fields, like right at where you cap it at, like that would be just like that's the highest that Steelers should go?
It just depends on like a number of factors, because like it's how much is guaranteed, how many years are we talking about? Right. So like a 2-year deal, I think $20 million a year is probably like the ceiling for me. 3-year deal, I don't know, maybe like, again, depends on how much is guaranteed, maybe 45. I mean, like that's about where I'm living. I think that's about what it's going to take to get done, especially if the Steelers want to get it done before the start of free agency. It's not that much money in the realm of NFL quarterback salaries right now. And I think it differently than Russell Wilson. Justin Fields has never been a free agent.
Right.
And he was a high draft pick. He got paid okay in his rookie deal, but I mean, those checks have been cashed for a long time now. Like, he's trying to get paid, and rightfully so. I think the Steelers are going to have to probably slightly overpay if they want to get this done before the start of free agency.
And so I think that's the ultimate question here is that slightly overpay? Is that going to be worth it? I think that Justin Fields, as I've said for, since the start of the offseason, I think Justin Fields should be the move. I think he should be the guy. I thought the sweet spot for the Steelers was if they could somehow pull off $15 million a year, that'd be perfect. Now, like to your point, I think $20 million, not crazy. But this team cannot afford to overspend on quarterback position unless Justin Fields turns out to be the man. Like next year, he just comes out and just blows everyone out the water, and he's getting Pro Bowl votes, and he's in the All Pro conversation. Then we in a whole different talk. But that's just not likely to happen. This team has so much to fix that it can fix in free agency, and we'll talk about some of those options later. But if they overpay Justin Fields, my biggest concern for the Steelers, if in their front office maneuvers, is that they could put themselves in a position where they miss out on getting, a Wharton at defensive tackle, a Murphy at cornerback, and filling holes that would more complete this roster across the board.
Yeah, I mean, I think Justin Fields has a lot of leverage depending on how the Steelers feel about the other options, right?
Right.
I mean, so I don't know. I think if you look at like Russell Wilson, I know the Steelers fans really don't want Russ back right now, but he was a better quarterback last year. If you take it the year in totality, the Steelers probably should not be like, oh, Justin, we need you so much. Here's $50 million over the next 2 years because, gosh, we couldn't possibly go back to Russell Wilson. There's basically a coin flip chance as to which one of them is going to be the better quarterback going forward. Yeah, I think Justin has a higher upside, but it's no sure thing. So they can't get played here. And like you're saying, they want to, the idea of this offseason is going to be that whoever is the quarterback is not the guy. And that the idea of this offseason is to quarterback proof the rest of this team so that when they get the guy, it's the Jaden Daniels situation. He's ready to hit the ground running and not Bryce Young, right?
Right.
That's got to be a CJ Stroud, right? Instead, that's maybe a better one-to-one comparison, right? That's got to be the idea of this offseason. And you're whatever the answer is at quarterback that does the least to detract from that other stuff while also providing a reasonably high level of quarterback play should be their option. So, I mean, I think Russ, I don't know, there was a report a week or two ago where they said the salary for Russ is higher. I'm not sure I buy it. I think Russ would sign for almost anything that's not insulting at this point.
What's not insulting?
I don't know, 10 to 15, somewhere in that range. I don't know. I don't think he seems like he really wants to come back. I would use that eagerness as the Steelers' leverage.
I think that's an option there. And look, if Justin Fields goes somewhere, I think you got to go with Russell Wilson at this point. I hear the Steelers fans and listen, anyone who knows the show says that, hey, I was on the train was hey, they should switch to Russell Wilson. And for about a month and a half, 2 months, I was right. There's a move. And I think up until a point when the offensive line started to deteriorate at the end of the season, that was when things fell apart for Russell Wilson. My only thing is this, to your point, I do think that there are certain things that if Justin Fields does not take a significant step forward, then yes, Russell Wilson would be the better quarterback in that situation. However, I think that for Russell Wilson to be the guy in the way that they need him to be the guy for, with the offense, they need that offensive line to take steps forward. I think that one key factor that Justin Fields has over Russell Wilson that's not just longevity is that I think Justin Fields can survive the O-line figuring things out. Ultimately, this offensive line still needs to take a big jump in 2025, no matter who's the quarterback, right? But if there's struggles, if there's times where they're figuring it out and they're not all the way there just yet, I feel like Justin Fields, as we see he'll be able to deal with that better than Russell Wilson and give you some options until the offensive line puts it together.
Especially if we're talking about moving Broderick Jones to left tackle at the same time. Yeah. I mean, that's going to be a significant project. So, yeah, I mean, I think I think you make a good point there. That's why I think if you're talking about it being somebody else other than these guys, like I'm not buying putting Aaron Rodgers behind that offensive line the way it pass protected in 2024. Same with Kirk Cousins. Same with Derek Carr. I mean, like maybe you talk me into Daniel Jones. He can move a little bit, I guess, but like I don't see the Steelers signing a statue. Plus, how many times you heard the word Mike Tomlin use the words quarterback mobility in the last 5 years? You think he's ready to go back? I don't.
I don't think so either, which is why I'm with you. I think Fields is the plan. We just got to see how it plays out, and we got to see who uses what leverage to get the deal, and we'll see who gets the better deal in situation going into the year. We got to take a quick break. When we come back, I want to talk to Alan about this running back class. We heralded it, and we've heralded it all off season. We've talked about this is such a good running back class. Let's talk about this running back class. I have clips from 2 running backs that we talked to at the combine. We'll look at some of the numbers all next here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. Chris Carter, Alan Saunders, stick with us. We'll be right back. But first, I want to remind you, this show is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, the #1 sportsbook in America. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just beginning on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because FanDuel is your home for NBA live betting. So even if you miss the first minutes of the game or you want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can make your picks from the first whistle until the final buzzer. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into the same game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. However you want to play, now is the perfect time to join. New FanDuel customers get started with $150 in bonus bets if you hit on your first bet of $5 or more. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. We're back here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter, here with Alan Saunders of SteelersNow.com. Alan, let's talk about this running back class, because boy, there's some interesting athletes in this class here. Specifically in the 40-yard dash, you saw some really fast times. Basul Tootin out of Virginia Tech, 4.32 in the 40-yard dash. Jadon Blue, 4.38. Rashard Smith, 4.39. Some ACC guys up in there. But then also you got Kaleb Johnson, who everyone was talking about, Quinshawn Judkins. And like, look, I don't need a running back to run a 4.3. It's nice if they can, but I need to see quickness. I need to see explosive. I need to see vision and power. And one guy that I think a lot of people are talking about and really excited about is Kaleb Johnson out of Iowa. He's a guy that everyone's been really excited about. He didn't run the greatest 40 at a 4.57, but again, I think that's fine. Is he one of your prime running backs you think is a great fit for the Steelers, or who do you have your sights set on to be like, this is the sweet spot for the Steelers to go after a running back this class?
I think there are a lot of good options for the Steelers at running back in this class. I think the mistake is probably getting tied into one of them too soon. I like Kaleb Johnson a lot. I think he's a really good player. I think he would be a pretty good fit for their offense. I think probably like the Ohio State running backs maybe are even better fits for their offense. It really depends on like a number of things, like one of which is, what's the plan with Jaylen Warren going forward? Is this a 1-year RFA tender, or is he going to be signed to a lengthy contract? Because when I look at a guy like Travion Henderson, man, that's like a carbon copy of what they already have. So if they're going to sign Jaylen Warren to a 4-year contract, do they want that? Do they want another guy who's exactly like that? Or maybe they want the Quinshawn Judkins half, right? Maybe they want or Kaleb Johnson, a guy with a little bit more power. I don't know. But there's so many good running backs. I think you find one. It's not going to be a bad pick. I think you just got to find one where you can find one. I do like Kaleb Johnson. I don't think it has to be him, though.
Here's a clip of Kaleb Johnson when we were talking to him at the podium during the NFL Combine. Have you met with the Steelers yet, formally or informally?
Oh, yes, sir. I met him with him formally, and it went really well. Mike Tomlin and stuff like that. And
what'd you think of Mike?
Yeah, I really liked him, and they really gave me a good vibe and stuff like that. So.
How do you feel about running zone versus power? Just the different reads that you have to make, and what makes you.
I feel like it doesn't matter to me. I want to run either one. I want to be a versatile back, just not a first and second down. I want to be a third down back, every down back, and be reliable on bad situations and good situations. So
there you have Kaleb Johnson. I think he brings a lot of good things to the table. But I think part of this is what type of running back do the Steelers want here, right, Alan? Because they've had the thunder and lightning with Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren. And listen, I hear people that are like, oh, it wasn't enough because they're running, like, Dan Orlovsky pointed to the last 6 years, the Steelers have the lowest yards per carry average at 3.9 yards per carry. And Najee Harris is represented for those yards. I think that's more about the O-line than necessarily Harris himself. But Najee Harris represented a different style of running back than Jaylen Warren. Warren, more explosive, can hit the home runs more often. Najee Harris, more of the hard runner guy. Being that they have Warren, and would it behoove them to get another type like Najee Harris that just maybe is younger, maybe a little bit quicker, and maybe has a little bit more juice to them? Or should they be going for a speed guy that can hit the outside zone holes a lot more often in Arthur Smith's offense?
I think power is fine. You want that guy for 3rd and 1, and I'm not sure I see it on the roster right now. But I don't think you can draft a guy highly that can't get to the edge and wide zone, because you know that Arthur Smith is going to run it more than anything else. And we just saw it not work very well with Najee Harris. We saw the pieces of Matt Canada's offense, especially down the stretch run of the season, when it seemed like they really, with Eddie Faulkner and Mike Sullivan, got it fine-tuned into what specifically worked with Najee Harris. What was it? It was gap runs. It was power, right? It was, and the Steelers didn't do any of that in 2024. So, like, the last thing in the world I want is a Najee Harris clone. Power is fine, but it can't come in the same kind of package they just had, or they should have kept Najee Harris.
Here's another hard runner in the group. This is Damien Martinez out of Miami. Here's some things that he had to say.
Your ability to run hard seemed like it always was there and a natural part of your game. What's something that you had to work really hard on to develop to be a part of your game, to add to that?
Like I said, moving up a 2-3 down back, coming into a new scheme and just catching out the back. I've always ran hard since I was a little kid, just being big naturally. But yeah, just proving I'm a 2-3 down back, wanting to do that.
Have you met with the Steelers yet, formally or informally?
Yeah.
Was it formal?
Informal. I haven't done really any formals just because I did all mine like the recent Senior Bowl. So.
What was that like?
It was pretty cool, just getting in front of every team, enjoying the process. Just blessed to be in this position. People would literally, give up everything just to be in this position. So just blessed and enjoying it all.
What's the part of your game that you think that you can surprise people the most about that they don't know enough about you?
Just my speed and acceleration. It shows up on tape, but just wanted to prove that tomorrow at the 40.
Damien Martinez 40-yard dash 4.51. Not super remarkable, but solid for a running back, especially one that's a hard runner. As far as how he plays, you made a face there when I brought up Damien Martinez. What's your thought on the young man out of Miami?
I can't believe he is being mocked in the 5th round right now.
Yeah.
Like, he's such a good player. Man, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, Damien Martinez is really good. If you can get Damien Martinez in the 5th round, to me, I think Caleb Johnson in the 2nd is kind of a tough sell. Like, I like Caleb Johnson. He's a lot better player. But, like, I don't know if I need all that. I think I can get by with Damien Martinez, who, incidentally, NFL Mock Draft Database, big board, number 163, happens to be the exact number of the Steelers' 5th round pick. You think put the little hand on the chin and go, no wonder.
Somebody has to clip that. We got to use that somehow as a meme. But in all seriousness, I'm with you on this. I like Damien's tape. I like how hard he runs, and like I feel like there's a fit for that, right? Like a guy who can have the speed to get there, run hard, knock the extra guy down. And that would, and like you said, if you look at his tape, he has brought more elements to his game. He doesn't just hit the hole one way. He does different things. And again, that's why I think this running back class can be special, is that you don't have to go get like people are saying the Steelers should just go get Ashton Jeanty in the 1st round. Listen, I think Ashton Jeanty could be a superstar, but I think they got other needs that they need to address here. You can get guys, in these middle and even late rounds that might be, starter capable running backs in very short order, like Martinez, who I think he could be that. Him and Jaylen Warren would split, and I would, lean more on Jaylen Warren to start early on, but Martinez could become that guy down the stretch. And I also think the Steelers, they've had their recent examples of waiting on running back and it paying off. I talked to Eddie Faulkner, and he was like, we had Jaylen Warren as like the 7th best running back in that class, and we knew he was not going to get drafted. So we gambled that we'd wait until after the draft, sign him and basically get enough for nothing. And like, we got our guy. And so they knew who Jaylen Warren was. They also knew that most people didn't like him as much and that they loved him. And so, as far as, a guy like Martinez, I wonder if Martinez is that guy, or if there's someone else that's in this class that they really like. But the good thing is that you got a really talented class to choose from. So it's easier to find all the different things that you could like in several of these different players.
Yeah, if you want a Jaylen Warren type Jaden Blue, 320 on the big board right now out of Texas, that guy's a stud. I don't know where he's going, if he's going to get drafted or not, but like that'll be good value here. The other part of this equation is what happens with Cordell Patterson. Was dead last in kick return average. I have really hard time seeing him being brought back to do that job again. And while I think he was fine as a running back 3, do you really want to pay him all that for that? So if they're getting rid of Patterson, they may bring in another veteran, and then so maybe you're looking at, I don't know about drafting 2 running backs, but I think it broadens the different types of running backs you have. If you want a Bashul Tootin, if you want a Yarns from Delaware, Brashard Smith from SMU, these like little guys that are like almost kind of wide receivers, right? Like they could go be your kick returner, right? Like, and so. And then you go sign a J.K. Dobbins, right? It's like he's your 3rd and 1 guy in that instance. I think you can make it all work too. So there's a bunch of different ways they can put this together.
I agree with you there. There's lots of options at running back for the Steelers to make moves, mix things up, and get a different look for this upcoming season. And hey, according to Jerry Dulac, there's still a door open for Najee Harris to return. I still don't see that happening, but I just find it interesting that that's been a thing for this long. But hey, you never know. I guess maybe Najee Harris doesn't get what he wants on the market, and he's like, why not bring it back? But I think the Steelers, you got to take advantage of this running back class, man. There's speed, there's explosiveness. Go after it there. It doesn't have to be early. We'll see how that continues. We'll keep a closer eye out on how this class goes. Pro days are starting up, so we'll be keeping our eyes on how people test at those and how the narrative changes there. But what's coming up before a lot of these pro days is free agency. And we talked about that a little bit with the Justin Fields, Russell Wilson situation. Let's talk about how this free agency pool is growing and also changing in the coming week or so. We'll do that next here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. Chris Carter, Alan Saunders, stick with us. We'll be right back. We're back here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. Chris Carter here with Alan Saunders of SteelersNow.com. Alan, let's talk about free agency now. I'm not saying I want the Steelers to sign this guy, but this is a big name that hit free agency on Monday. It was Darius Slay, cornerback out of Philadelphia, Super Bowl champion. He was a big part of that secondary, a leader in that secondary, especially when they brought in 2 rookies. I don't think the Steelers should go get him necessarily. I know he's a big name. I know he has a great history and all that, but he's 34, and like I think that there's times where his age shows a bit. And if the Steelers are going to go get a cornerback, and I think they'll go get 1, maybe even 2 cornerbacks in this free agency pool, I think they've got better options with guys in their prime, but. I wonder what this pool is going to look like as things continue. T. Higgins officially tagged. We knew he was going to be for about over a week now. This is always the tricky part of the season where sometimes I can see cuts coming. Like years ago, I knew the Jaguars were going to cut Myles Jack, and I was like, that's a Steeler move to go sign that guy. But are there any such cuts or people that you have your eye on that could be like, okay, this could be something that develops in the favor of the Steelers?
Well, let's talk about the kind of obvious one, right? I know there's a report out there. I think I don't remember. It's Schefter, Rappaport, one of those guys. Oh, the Jets are willing to trade Devontae Adams. Like, yeah,
I bet they are.
Yeah. He's got a $36 million cap hit. Of course, the Jets are willing to trade Devontae Adams. I think he's going to get cut. He'll be out there. I think Tyler Lockett was reported today that that there's they'll be looking around for him, but he could be cut. I don't know. There's been talk about a DK Metcalf trade. I think it's less likely. I think you could see Lockett get cut. I think there's a chance Christian Kirk gets cut if they can't trade him. And so there's a lot of these out there for the Steelers that I think definitely start to look interesting. And the quarterback position as well. I mean, Derek Carr, Saints are $47 million over the salary cap. I got to do something. I mean, so like that's very possible as well. I was a little surprised by Slay. I guess apparently he wasn't, but maybe this is something that's been talked about more in Philadelphia that I wasn't aware of. But I think he was a good player last year. I'd be in. I didn't look 34 on the tape that I saw. I think the Steelers are in a position to lock up that spot for a long time, but maybe they don't want him. Maybe like the draft class and they just want a 1-year guy. I'd be in on that.
That could be possible. That we talked about some good cornerbacks in the combine last week. Just for the record, for the Saints, this is relevant to the Steelers. If they cut Derek Carr, they would save $1.3 million against the cap.
No, they can. If they post June 1 it, they can.
Oh, they post. I always forget about post June.
Yeah, they can post June 1 it. I think they save $30 million. Okay. Which is
that's significant.
Which is like 2/3 of the way to them getting salary cap.
Yeah, I mean that's the other thing. Yeah, they're $47 million in the hole, and Derek Carr represents a $51.4 million cap hit.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he'll take a restructure, but like they got to do something there.
They do have to do something. But okay, so there's guys like that out there where I think that they can do that. But I just when I look at this free agency pool and I see the potential there for the Steelers to get something done. One guy that I've talked about, Nick Farabow's talked about. I think I talked about him once. Wharton, the defensive tackle out of the Chiefs. Milton Williams, the defensive tackle out of the Eagles. There's guys there. And at corner. Two of these positions we've talked about the Steelers needing. And you and I have talked about the importance of developing a rotation on the defensive line. And I think that's where the Steelers can find a sweet spot is if they can get a guy or two in free agency for the D line and then just get one solid corner, whether that corner's in the slot or the outside. I think that could be the sweet spot as far as like, okay, these are the defensive moves that you really address and make serious moves and investing in free agency to fix this offseason on top of, getting your quarterback.
Yeah, I would be like, I'm not really expecting a big move on defensive line. I was a little surprised when Omar Khan mentioned that last Tuesday, just because I think their philosophy has been to build through the draft in the trenches, and this is such a good defensive line class in the draft. So I don't know. I mean, they could definitely. I mean, they need like 3, right? Because Larry is a potential salary cap casualty. Mon Adams is a free agent. Dean Lowry, I mean, take him or leave him. Loudermilk's a free agent, right? So, I mean, they could do a number of different things there on the defensive line. Not crazy to go bring back, bring a guy in free agency. Probably not necessary. I think wide receiver is the one where it's really necessary. When you look at how slim, like it is not a very good wide receiver draft class. I mean, like you can sit there and do your mock draft and you can find the one you like, but like that's the only one in every round, like pretty much. Like there's like 1 or 2 guys. And I think that's a little dicier of a situation. I think if I'm Omar Khan, that's my first priority. Corner, there's so many, they'll get one. I'm not worried about that at all. But I think I would prioritize wide receiver over defensive line in terms of free agency.
That would be interesting to see it go there. But if you're looking at wide receivers in free agency, who do you get? Because I'm not too excited about this free agency wide receivers class. I'm not in on a 32-year-old Stephon Diggs. Definitely not in on a 33-year-old Keenan Allen. Chris Godwin. That injury. I don't know if he'll be back. In time for things. I look at that. A Hollywood Brown at 28-year-old maybe. Amari Cooper at 31. Where's the best route for the Steelers if they were to make that one of their priorities in free agency?
I think the free agent that is like the most obvious fit is probably Darius Slayton. I know they at least talked to the Giants about trading for him last year. I think there's some of these guys that we're talking about that could be cut or there could be trades. Like I think Christian Kirk can be had. Obviously Devontae Adams. I think there's a chance Cortland Sutton will be traded. I know Ben Albright, who covers the Broncos, has been talking about that a good bit. And so I think there are more people out there that it sort of immediately obviously looks like are going to be available in terms of wide receivers. Now, Brandon Ayuk, we got to bring it up. Like it's been like John Lynch is saying they're listening to offers, and I mean, if they are, the Steelers should be making them because that's a better fit than any of the rest of these guys. Yeah, I mean, I think just like you're seeing, like, oh, Slay gets cut today. I think as we go forward, there'll be more talk about more wide receivers either being cut or guys that are being available for trades.
That'll be the interesting thing to watch is how fast this happens, and also who the Steelers cut, because this is around the time where this is the time. If you're going to cut Larry Ogunjobi, you got to do it soon, and get that out there. I do think there's room for that kind of stuff to happen. But I'm with you. I like going cornerback in free agency this year. I think, again, I've been big on Byron Murphy. There's a lot of people that want DJ Reed. I can see that. Charvarius Ward's out there. Carlton Davis. There's names out there in quarterback and free agency. Wide receiver, I think, is where it could be tricky. I like some of the ideas and some of the things you mentioned there, but I wonder, like you're saying, like, what's the fit here? Devontae Adams, for example, if they were to get Devontae Adams, he's older. Would you be bringing him in for like a very short stint next to George Pickens if George Pickens is still around? But I think that's why, like, for me, I've been saying for a while, I think the sweet spot for the Steelers, if they're going after wide receiver, is the second round, because whereas I think if you get into the third and fourth round, there's a high chance that, like, guys who can contribute sooner rather than later are going to be gone. This isn't one of those classes.
One guy or two guys in there, but I think they can take a wide receiver in a trade or free agent and go right back and use a day 2 pick on wide receiver. Like, yeah. I mean, whatever happens with George Pickens this offseason, it's not looking great for him to be here next year. So, like, It's no big deal to draft to sign a wide receiver, or trade for a wide receiver, and then go back and draft another one. I think that's, like, the one doesn't disqualify the other.
Absolutely. So lots of options there on the board. Keep an eye out, on your social media feeds, see who else gets cut. We'll be talking about that as the week rolls along here at the Locked On Steelers podcast. Alan, thank you so much for joining us here. Let people know they can find you, follow you, and get more of your work.
Saunders_PGH on all the social media platforms. PGH Steelers Now is the site's account, SteelersNow.com. So where you can find all my written work, and you can find my podcast, Steelers Morning Rush and Steelers Afternoon Drive, on the Steelers Now YouTube page or anywhere you find podcasts.
Absolutely. He's Alan Saunders. I'm Chris Carter. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, all the social media handles. Same place everywhere, at Carter Critiques. Read my work at the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, post-gazette.com. Find me here on the Locked On Steelers podcast every Monday through Friday on your favorite podcasting apps and on YouTube. Back tomorrow with more on your Steelers right here on the Locked On Steelers podcast.